This is James Walker, and welcome to Real Talk, Real People. This is the podcast that turns the mic over to everyday people to hear what they have to say about the issues and problems we face as a society. Hello, folks. Thank you very much for joining us again this week. The conversation is about black women and breast cancer. And due to the seriousness of this subject, we're going to do this podcast in two segments. This is part one. You know, nearly 34,000 black women were expected to be diagnosed with breast cancer in 2019. And sadly, an estimated 6,500 will die from it. Those are not only troubling figures, they're downright tragic. My guest today is breast cancer survivor Lolita Vanilla Brooks. She is a native of Stratford who is now living in Virginia where her husband is working. And we are going to get right to her story.
When I first got the diagnosis, I think the first thing that went through my head was it has to be a mistake. This has to be a mistake. I'm vigilant. I go and I get my mammograms every year. I'm extremely vigilant. This is a mistake. It was one of those, this can't happen to me. And I think I kind of went numb when I got the diagnosis because, not because I wasn't comprehending what she was saying, but in that moment, it was, oh my gosh. This is real. This is real. So my motivation through that whole thing was, I remember thinking, my daughter. Now, I have children. I have a son and I have a daughter. And I remember thinking, my daughter, she's about to graduate from high school. And I just kept seeing her face in my mind the entire time. And I want to say, quite frankly, I wasn't done. I was angry. I had to dig deep. And she was my motivation, was my daughter. My kids, I love them the same, but I wasn't done with my daughter yet. My son was older. He's 5 years older. But I was not finished with my daughter. And she became my motivation.
Does breast cancer run in your family?
Surprisingly, it does not. However, I have a first cousin that was diagnosed with breast cancer. She was actually the first one in our family that was diagnosed with breast cancer. And it does not. We had the genetics testing done. I had the BRCA testing done. Nothing. Everything was negative. They just said it just happened to be a coincidence. In a family as large as our family, it was just a fluke. That's what they told me. So it does not. That was just something that happened, and it happened to both of us.
And what about treatment after you found out? What about treatment?
Okay.
Were you satisfied with the treatment? How did you approach the treatment?
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so when I found out, and I don't know, I don't know how much you want me to talk about, my story, whether or not you want me to, tell you from the beginning, or
just imagine that you're talking to other women, because
that's
who you're talking to.
Okay, so when I found out about breast cancer, when I found out I had breast cancer, I'm gonna back up a little bit. It was routine. It was a routine mammogram. I wasn't looking for it. I didn't feel it. I didn't notice anything different. My husband's job was purchased by a larger company, and they were sending someone out. We had to update our medical insurance, and they were actually sending someone out to give him his physical. And because I worked full time, I had to have a physical on file. Otherwise, they were going to charge him an additional $50 every month. Okay. Now, during this time, I was working full time, but I was opening a brand new school. So I was busy as well. All of my well woman visits had to be done by December 6th. Okay. So there was no time on the calendar for this. And I remember him saying, you have to get this done. You have to get this done. They're going to charge me an additional $50. And I remember being really upset with him because I'm like, seriously, you can't pay the $50. I'll go the beginning of the year. Okay. I'll go the beginning.
Sounds just like a guy.
Yeah. He's like, well, it's $50 every pay period, every day. And I'm like, really? This is what we're going to argue about? Okay, fine. I will go. So I looked at my calendar and I had November 30th free. So I knew I had to get a mammogram. I knew I had to go to the doctors. I had to get my cholesterol checked. I knew I had to make all of my appointments that one day. And I was angry. I was going to make every single appointment that day. Everything was going to get done. I was not going back again. This was for him, because this $50, he was going on and on and on about this $50. And I made my appointments. I figured I was going to make the day of it. I went and saw one doctor. I went and had breakfast at IHOP. I took the whole day off from work. I was going to enjoy my day. And I scheduled my mammogram, and I did all of that. And I remember going to get my mammogram, and the receptionist said, well, Ms. Brooks, she said, you usually get a traditional mammogram. And I said, yeah, well, is there a problem? She said, well, your doctor checked the box for a 3D mammogram. And I said, well, okay, what do I need to do now? And she said, well, because you get a traditional mammogram, you're going to have to check with your doctor to get another order. And I said, well, I'm not doing that because then I would have to come back again. And she said, yeah, unfortunately. And I said, well, can I just pay out of pocket? And she said, sure. And I asked her, how much was it? And she said, it's $50. And I remember in that moment thinking, you know what? This doggone $50. It wasn't my husband for this $50. I have to pay out of pocket for this 3D mammogram, $50. My insurance doesn't cover that. So I remember laughing, and I'm cracking up in the doctor's office, in the where I'm going to get the mammogram. And, and I said, that's $50. I said, it was going to get me. So I paid $50, and it happened to be the best $50 that I've ever paid, because during the time that I got the 3D mammogram, 3D was optional. It wasn't required. It was optional. And I went back and they took the pictures, and they called me about 2 or 3 days later. And I remember being annoyed when they called me back because, again, they wanted me to come in for more pictures. And I remember being annoyed saying, it's probably a cyst. It's probably this. It's not my first callback. So I remember being annoyed, and something just told me to just wait a minute, just trying to be quiet. You paid for a 3D mammogram. So in that moment, it was just be still. And I remember being still, and I asked the receptionist, I said, well, what would you like me to do? And she said, well, we want you to come in for some more pictures because we saw a shadow and we just want to be sure. So I remember going in the next day for some more pictures, and they came up, they looked, they wanted me to get a sonogram. I got a sonogram, and I remember sitting there. This was taking way too long, and I remember thinking to myself, this is taking a long time. I'm going to pass out. Please don't let me pass out. And I'm sitting on this table. And I got up and I sat in the chair because I needed something to support my back, just in case I fainted. And they came up and she told me, she said, but, we were able to determine that it was a solid mass. And we wanted to make sure it was solid before, we told you what we would like you to do next. And I remember saying, well, what does that mean? And she said, well, on your traditional mammogram, nothing showed up. They took regular pictures and they compared it to the 3D mammogram. And on the 3D mammogram, there was a shadow, just a shadow. And she said, we'd like for you to go ahead and just get a biopsy. Well, my tumor showed up on the 3D mammogram, and it did not show up on the traditional mammogram. So that's why I like to say that $50 saved my life, because a week from that date, I got a biopsy, and exactly 1 week from that, they told me that it was cancer. It was stage 1, grade 3 aggressive. We caught it early. we caught it very early. It was approximately the size of my fingernail. And where it was positioned, you couldn't see it. You couldn't tell. They couldn't feel it. I couldn't feel it. So it would have gone unnoticed for another year until I went back for my mammogram or until I felt it, you know? So I consider myself extremely lucky, extremely blessed, very fortunate that 3D, that mistake from my doctor and, you know, my husband hounding me over that $50 led to the result of me, you know, them finding this tumor. And when they found this tumor, I had to, because it was so early, they wanted to attack it very aggressively. They did the biopsy. They could go in and they could remove it right away. So within the month, I had to have it removed. And they did pathology, and they were able to determine that I was triple positive. Well, triple positive, there's like an extra step. Most women that I know are triple negative or, you know, HER2 positive or something like that. I was estrogen positive, progesterone positive, Herceptin positive. Everything was positive. So everything, basically, that meant everything that made me a woman was feeding my cancer.
You're listening to Real Talk, Real People, the podcast that turns the mic over to everyday people. Lolita Bonilla Brooks is our guest, and she is talking about her journey after learning she had breast cancer. And I think there's little doubt when you listen to her story and the stories of other black women who have survived this terrible disease, then you understand that these survivors should be celebrated.
After the surgery, I had to complete AC over a 3-month period, which was chemotherapy. It was determined that I did need chemotherapy. And I completed AC over a 3-month period. During that time, I also did 16 rounds of Taxol as soon as that was done, 33 rounds of radiation, and they started me on Lupron injections every 3 weeks because of my HER2 positive status. They wanted me to come back in, and they wanted to look at my ovaries and my tubes. They recommended removing them because your ovaries become receptors for the type of cancer that I had. So I went in to, you know, get a consultation for that. And when I went in, they were able to determine that I had quite a few fibrous tumors in my uterus.
Wow.
So, you know, so that, you know, they were scared that that was going, you know, to develop into something because I was also on tamoxifen, you know, which is something that, you know, thickens, you know, your uterus and your cervix. So I had to go in and I had to have a full hysterectomy in June of 2018. You know, so, and then I was on Herceptin. I had to do a full year of Herceptin treatments because of the triple positive status. So whereas something the size of my fingernail, you know, I'm thinking it was this was going to be okay. I'm going to be okay because it's the size of my fingernail. We caught it early. It led to a 3-year fight for my life. And I just had no idea. I had no idea.
So let me ask you, what was your mental health like during this stage here? And did you have support?
Well, during this time, I reached out to my cousin, Len Sistrunk, and my cousin was a part of the organization Sister's Journey. Okay, she was my guiding light. Because she had gone through this journey before me. And she had support in Connecticut. Now, during this time, I am also in Virginia. Now, I'm born and raised in Connecticut. I'm a Connecticut girl through and through, Stratford, Connecticut. I have all of my ties are in Connecticut. My family is in Connecticut. My parents, my entire family is there. I'm only in Virginia because my husband's job is down here. He's a defense contractor, so we're outside of the D.C. metropolitan area. I've been down here for some time, but during this time, the support that I was receiving was from my family and friends in Connecticut. Now, I had a lot of friends, teacher friends that, that I work with that bonded together to hold me up. I had a really good circle of sisters, but I also had my cousin. I had Sister's Journey. I had my parents, my husband, my mother-in-law. They became my support circle. Sister's Journey is more than a support group. They were more than a support group. They became a prayer circle. There's strength in numbers. There's wisdom there. There's education there. That group is a family. And they welcomed me with open arms because I couldn't find the support that I needed here in Virginia. They opened their arms to me even though they were in Connecticut, across the miles.
Do you feel as an African American woman that you received proper care? Do you have any complaints at all about the care that you received?
I have zero complaints about the care that I received. I absolutely loved my oncologist. In the beginning it was a little shaky. I didn't know. I felt like I was just another number in the very beginning because this was new to me. And I understand that they deal with a lot of cases of breast cancer. The same thing with my surgical oncologist. They deal with a lot. So sometimes their bedside manner is a little bit abrupt. And, I'm just another case. And I think you have to be an advocate for yourself. I remember actually going in and speaking with my surgical oncologist and telling him, wait a minute, this is not okay. This might be, the 40th person. I might be the 40th person that you saw this week. However, this is my first go round, and I need you to make me understand exactly what is going on with my body. And I don't want to say that it was because I was an African American woman. I want to say it was just routine. It was routine for him. It was routine for, my medical oncologist. It's routine because they deal with this day in and day out. But once I had to stand up for myself and say, I need to understand and advocate for myself, I think it broke a few barriers and we were able to communicate and, they had to realize I'm a person. I'm scared. I'm scared. This is new. So I am very pleased with the care that I did receive. It's unfortunate because I do hear quite a bit of, differences between races and care that women receive. But I was very fortunate to have a really, really good team in my corner.
Now, are you concerned that the cancer will come back?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I had to ask.
Yeah, absolutely. Day to day, no. In the long term, that's something that it just never leaves your mind. It it's always in the back of your mind somewhere. There's a likeliness of reoccurrence. This brings me back to, one of the doctors, I had to see a substitute doctor because my oncologist was away. Her brother unfortunately passed away. And I saw a different oncologist filled in for her. And it was near the end of my treatment. And I remember asking, how do we know if we were successful? And this one oncologist said, well, if you're alive in 20 years, then we know we did a good job. And I remember stopping and saying, I'm sorry, what? Because that was not okay. I'm sorry, what did you just say to me? Because, that's not okay for someone who, I've been through 3 years. I've lost all my hair, my eyebrows, my taste buds. I have neuropathy in my arms and in my legs. I've gained weight, I've lost weight because of the steroids. I've gone through mood swings. I've thrown up. I've been sick. This is something, I've been burned. I've been through radiation. This is so life changing. For you to say something like that to me was not okay. And it was in that moment, I think I felt, what if it does come back? And I think it kind of stuck in my brain. And I was okay to that point. I was okay to that point. When that doctor said that to me, it has always been something that's in the back of my mind. And I think it'll always be in the back of my mind. What if? What if? I try to stay as vigilant as possible. Like I said, I went through the BRCA testing, because I do have a daughter, I have a son, and I wanted to make sure this was not something that I passed on. And I worry. I worry. My daughter's she's a junior in college now, and I still worry. Every day is a blessing. And I still do my exams, and I still speak out, and I take my medication, but in the back of my mind, I still have that what if.
Well, I have to say, Ms. Wood, thank you very much for speaking with us. Just a really, I just cannot tell you how much your words and your story mean, and how powerful your voice is in telling it. Is there anything else you would like to add?
Thank you so much. First of all, it was an honor to even be considered to speak with you. I just want to talk, again about my support circle. I wanted to speak about Sisters Journey and, what they've meant for me. They were in the right place at the right time. Like I said, they're a family. They're a prayer circle. They lifted me up. They're advocates. They're education, and if there's anything that I can say to anyone that's listening, be vigilant about your body. Be vigilant about your health. Be vigilant about asking for clarification, for help, and be vigilant about getting checked, because you never know.
You've been listening to Real Talk, Real People. If you would like to be on the show, have a comment about the show, or perhaps you have an idea that the show should explore, give us a call at 203-605-1859 or email us at realtalkrealpeoplect@gmail.com. And remember, start your Sundays with my column in Hearst, Connecticut newspapers statewide, and start your Mondays right here at Real Talk, Real People. Have a good week, folks. We'll talk again next week.